the Rockets win Game 3?
All right, I'll start with the positive. Start with the things people did well instead of the things people did poorly. It's Monday morning. Start the week off on a good note.
Sure.
The Rockets were brilliant defensively once again.
Yes.
Now, I know you might see, wait, the Warriors scored how many? They scored how many points? How could you say 121 points? 112 in regulation. And when the Warriors have single-digit turnovers and you hold them under 120, when Durant goes for 40-plus, when Iggy and Draymond once again combine for 30-plus, and you hold them to a reasonable amount of points, I think the Rockets were spectacular defensively because they stuck to their game plan. And the game plan has been, we're going to trust P.J. Tucker, more on him later, to guard Kevin Durant, and we're not going to allow Steph and Klay to beat us. We're going to try to make sure P.J. doesn't get switched off Durant as much as possible, and we're going to deal with it. They also didn't panic. They left Clint Capella in the starting lineup. They let Clint Capella play big minutes.
Didn't overreact.
And he earned his minutes. He played as well. Certainly the best game he's played in this series, even if it's a tough matchup for him. And Harden was great in the first three quarters, struggled in the fourth, and then was great again in overtime. So that's the positives. The other way the Rockets won is Steph Curry was miserable. Steph Curry was terrible. You cannot just blame it on the hand. It wasn't just the missed dunk at the end. Going into the missed dunk at the end, he was 2 of 7 at the rim. The hand had nothing to do with him on a critical fourth-quarter possession, seeing Austin Rivers get the basketball, and then just deciding, I'm going to turn and run the other way, and Austin Rivers hitting a three. This was as bad as we've seen Steph play, aside from a couple really rough NBA Finals games. So Harden does his thing, Eric Gordon goes off, the Rockets execute their game plan defensively, and Steph is awful. That's how the Rockets gave us the chance of getting a series with a win tonight.
Yeah, they were able to keep the second chance points down. Didn't give them a lot of rebounding. The Rockets in this game, to me, they were trying to find themselves. And I think you used a great word. They had patience. They didn't panic. Because there was an opportunity there where, oh, man, this is going to end like last year's game did, especially when they went through the drought offensively. But if you look at the Capella did not panic with that. He had a great game out of him for what they want him to do. And Shumpert off the bench was able to give them some minutes.
Couple shots,
and those three-pointers, I mean, they weren't expecting that. But collectively, this to me was an organizational win because they're the only team in the NBA that really has real confidence going against Golden State, and you're down 2-0. You're coming back to your place. Tight game going back and forth. The Warriors and Kevin Durant are playing well enough that you feel like, man, they're going to hit a shot. Steph and them, Klay and them are going to hit a shot at the end. But their overall game plan as far as Klay and Steph has been brilliant, and it's allowed them to be able to get back into this series.
Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green can't be the second-best player on your team when you have Steph Curry on the team. When Kevin Durant goes for 46 and you don't win, you have to ask yourself, where's the rest of the Warriors that we've been lauding this entire season? This is the moment that the Warriors team was put together for.
And listen, there's no getting around how poorly Steph played. In the fourth quarter and overtime, he was 0 for 6 with 0 rebounds, 0 assists, a couple awful defensive plays, and 4 personal fouls. That's awful. When Durant brought him back, the Warriors were given a gift in that, I don't think it was a bad call, but P.J. Tucker picked up, this was, I think, missed in the broadcast to a degree. P.J. Tucker picked up his 4th foul a minute and a half into the third quarter. He then didn't come back in the game until 2 minutes into the fourth quarter. So in that 12-minute stretch, Kevin Durant scored 24 points. In that 12-minute stretch, Kevin Durant was out there the entire time, and Kevin Durant got the Warriors from down double digits.
Yeah, they ran their offense through him.
They ran everything through him, and the Rockets had no answer. P.J. Tucker is going to be first-team All-NBA defense this year. He is right now playing like, all things considered, the second most important player on the Rockets, ahead of Chris Paul, ahead of Eric Gordon, because of what he's doing, not only defensively, but on the boards. You mentioned not giving the Warriors second chance points. The Rockets had 17 offensive rebounds themselves. So many of those were 6'4" P.J. Tucker coming in, fighting his way in and getting them. So he got in foul trouble, and that's what let the Warriors come back in the game. If Steph just has a mediocre game, the series is over. If Steph just has an average game, they are up 3-0, and tonight's game is pretty meaningless. he had as bad of a game as you can have, up to and including the laughable missed dunk, which could have cut it to 3 late. And the game wasn't over there. If he makes that dunk, it's a 3-point game with 20 seconds left. You're alive. And now they have to regroup for Game 4 tonight.
And that's one reason why Steph has been able to avoid a lot of criticism, because there's been finals where he had 2 or 3 average to poor games. But he had Kevin Durant. He had Draymond. He had Clay. Like, these guys came to the rescue. That was really the only difference in game number 3. They didn't have anyone else to bail him out. So now you're really looking at Steph, and as Nick pointed out, it was his worst playoff game at the worst time, because now, I mean, this series can go either way. Game number 4 in Houston tonight. It's going to be exciting to see what kind of adjustments Houston's going to make in game number 4, because I still believe that there are a couple adjustments that they feel like they can make as the series continues to go on. Yes.
Listen, the Rockets played incredible ball, and it took overtime to win Game 3. The Warriors did not play incredible ball. Some of their stars, besides Kevin Durant, played far under what their ceiling is. You know that they've got another gear. How do the Rockets compete in Game 4?
Well, listen, we talked about it for Game 3, and it didn't happen. They were able to win it anyway. Is Chris Paul going to have a big game in this series?
It's Chris Paul's time.
Yeah, is Chris Paul going to, because you can't rely on Eric Gordon's 30 points and 7 of 14 from 3. Now, Eric Gordon's been their second most reliable offensive player this postseason, but you can't say he's going to give you 30 again. You also, those Iman Shumpert threes, especially the off-the-dribble pull-up 3, that isn't found money. That might be stolen money. Like, that is not duplicable. So they need Chris Paul. I mean, you look at it, you're like, okay, 14 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, only 8 field goal attempts. He was the one who they called his number for the final play of regulation, and he couldn't even get a shot up. They are going to need Chris Paul to show up in large order tonight, because you can't expect Steph, even if he's not going to have a great game, Steph is not going to have one of the 2 worst playoff games of his career in back-to-back nights.
Well, as much as we respect the Rockets, we could say James Harden, we could say Chris Paul, we could say Capella. They need some bench help. Jenna, the Warriors are so good. They need some help. That's what the Rockets, they need the Warriors to be able to help them out. They need Clay to have a bad night. They need Steph to be a little bit off. They need KD to come back to normal regular season KD, not postseason KD. And they still got to take some chances. You still got to leave Iguodala wide open and force him to be able to make those shots. But as well as the Rockets have played in game number 3, they still need some help from the Warriors, I believe, to get it to 2-2.
One last note, because Steve Kerr said there's a chance that Boogie, if they advance, comes back at some point this postseason. Not this series, but this postseason. I think that's really unlikely. But as far as Boogie's impact on this series, the Rockets were one of the teams, I believe, that was not afraid of the Warriors with Boogie. That didn't think that would make them better. Watching this series and watching how they have no punch off the bench whatsoever, watching how the offense goes to die when it's not that starting 5 out there, they're missing Boogie Cousins, because they would have a 6th legitimate player. Once again, you look at Saturday night's game, and it's like, wait, what did the bench do? You got 2 from Looney, 2 from McKinney, 3 from Livingston, and that's it. Jonas Jerebko's getting minutes and just getting run off the court. The Warriors have right now their starting 5, and that's all they've got.
All right, Game 4 from Houston tonight. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.